Okay.
And there's Bonnie.
Hello. Is that any better?
Yeah, what do you see on your screen? Do you see "Should You Change Careers" with
I
Dr.
do
Steven
see
Simon?
it, yeah.
I see it. Yeah.
So that's apparently you can share screens, but we don't know how to do it yet. So maybe that's something Bonnie and I can play with later and figure it out.
Okay.
I just don't know how to give you permission to do it, which is unfortunate.
It's a whole lot of technology. Like, should you change careers into something that has to do with a lot of new technology?
Well, good morning. Yeah, this is Ronnie Haskins. I've got Dr. Steven Simon with me today. I've got Bonnie Simon, the incomparable Bonnie Simon. And we are here to talk to you today about should you change careers. If you didn't see the screen just now, this is what the entire topic is about. And we have a professional with us today, a PhD holder, Dr. Steven Simon. Bonnie, would you please introduce your dad?
Yes, I would be happy to. So I like to tell the story of how, well, it's not necessarily a story. So the thing is that like everybody has, you kind of learn what your parents do. You have the family business. So my dad happened to be a doctor. Actually, I'm not really sure what you're a doctor of. I've never been really clear on that. But I know that you've been helping people find jobs for a very long time, since I was a little girl. And the proof that all of this works is that I have never had trouble finding jobs. That every time I've needed a job, I go to my dad. I say, "What do I do?" Although at some point I kind of learned what he was going to say. I can learn, and then I do what he tells me. And I've had good jobs. I haven't had problems with interviews. My dad's advice really, like, he really knows what he's doing in the realm of finding work. And even when I did things that he didn't necessarily approve of, like quit my corporate job, he's still been able to help me. Like, I quit my corporate job in the hope that I would find something that I would like better. And actually the way that I found this was in part because of conversations that I had with my dad. So these days, what he does is to help people change careers, people who were like me, who were in a career that they were not necessarily thrilled with anymore. Now, he doesn't advise you to quit during a recession. Let me just clarify that might have been a little rebellious thing that I did. But he helps people in that same position figure out what it is they want to do and how to find that job. And that's what this book is about. Relaunch, Stagnation, Change, and Renewal in Mid-Career and Beyond. And the book helps you find, it's like having my dad in the room, that it helps you find the intersection of your interests, your skills, and the kind of work environment that you like best. So how was that? Is that enough?
That's pretty good, except I was surprised that you didn't know what I got my doctorate in.
What is it in? It was a long time ago.
I just have to say that I spent 4 years of my life when Bonnie was younger, and 4 years of my life going to graduate school and working and everything else. And so apparently I didn't spend enough time with you.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I was like 4.
Welcome to family therapy. I am going to be heading this up today.
So,
or we get in a fight.
to clear the record here, or to get the record straight, I have a doctorate in counseling, PhD in counseling, and it is from Kent State University. You did know that, Bonnie?
I did know that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Roger that. All right. So today our topic is, should you change careers? We're going through the COVID-19 virus. Dr. Simon is going to share with us some things that you could be doing right now with all of the downtime that you have. And is it a good time for you to think about changing careers? So, we just thought this would be a fun conversation, and it's very nice to have someone who has so much experience in this particular field talk to us today. So welcome, Dr. Simon. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today. Which topic would you like to start with first?
Well, I think the idea of should you change careers is a good question at this point in time, because everything's kind of up in the air. And first, I want to thank you, Ronnie, for inviting me to come on this show.
You're very welcome.
But should you change careers? I've thought about that question, and I've actually written a little bit about it in my blog. Uh, but some people might say, well, there are some fields that are really doing well now, like like the medical field and
Yeah.
retail groceries and those kinds of areas. Um, Online providers of services, a number of fields really doing well. So
Yeah.
you might think, well, maybe if I was thinking of that type of work, or if I was in that type of work before, maybe this is a good time to take a look and maybe make a change in careers. But the reality is that things are really changing. If we continue to go on like this for another 2 or 3 months or beyond that, and some people are saying we could be isolating or social distancing for a year. We don't know. But the longer we do it, the more that things are going to change. Our habits change. Employers are going to find that, well, it works better for us to have people work from home. Well, we don't need to rent office space, and so there are a lot of things that could potentially change. So even in fields that look like they're really solid, and let's take the medical field for example. Well, when you watch the news every night, you see all these doctors and nurses, and they need more nurses, and they need more doctors, and doctors are coming out of retirement,
Yeah.
and all this kind of thing. But I read an article about the Mayo Clinic the other day, and the Mayo Clinic is laying off people, and the reason is because a lot of their main business is no longer happening. People are not coming in for regular appointments.
No elective surgery, stuff
No
like that.
elective surgeries, you're right, all those kinds of things. So they're actually laying off. And I have a client, and this is interesting. I was talking to her yesterday. I have a distance practice. For me, this works out fine.
Yeah.
So I was talking with her yesterday, and she's in the IT field, and she's got a good job, but she's tired of it. She's tired of doing it. And I get a lot of clients like that who, after 20 years of doing something, they're thinking, I've had enough of this, and I'm burned out, I'm stagnating, I want to change. But she's in the IT field, and so she's thinking about a change in jobs. Now, you would think, wow, the IT field is great because more and more people, they're going to have need for more and more IT applications in the new world.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, we talked about this a little bit, and she said, in my company, what's happening is, first of all, they're laying off contractors, and they're laying off all the contractors, and they're switching around work teams. I've been on 2 different work teams since this COVID thing started. I don't know what's happening in my company. So is it a good time to make a change? What we decided is, well, there are certain things that you can do, and you can get ready for change. But maybe this is a time just to wait and see what happens when things settle down.
I think so. There's a lot of dust in the air. I mean, you have telemedicine in the health community that's been on the rise, and I think that this COVID-19 is going to push that to the forefront a lot faster. This is probably going to end up being a doctor visit for a lot of us in the near future.
Yeah.
All kinds of customer and client interactions are just going to video. So there's a lot of dust in the air, a lot of movement, it's what the word that everybody's using right now is very fluid.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is true. It is very fluid, which brings up a good point, because there are some occupations where you could make a change because what they deal with is fluidity.
Yeah.
So, for example, I know somebody who is a healthcare consultant, and this person is thinking about a job change because She got an offer from another company. Well, in the healthcare field, fluidity is what's happening.
Right.
And what do healthcare consultants deal with? They deal with fluidity and helping organizations make the changes that they need to make. So for that person, taking a good look at this and seeing what this new company does, maybe a job change at this point is taking advantage of an opportunity. And I have a client, another client, who works at a high level in government, not an appointed position, but a civil service position, as an assistant to a city manager, and that's a pretty high level job.
Yeah.
And she has a very good background, has a PhD in public administration, and she too was interested in now going into consulting work. And this is a great time to be looking at that because governments are changing. They're changing the way they do things.
Yeah.
And so, so there are some, you have to look very closely before you decide to, you have to look at the situation to decide whether you're going to proceed on a change.
What do you spend the most time counseling people on? Do you counsel with them about their careers? You used the word you're a counselor and a doctor with a PhD in counseling. What type of counseling do you normally do?
Well, my specialty is career counseling. I've done that for my entire career has been about careers.
Well, I wanted to make that clear. Like, we're not talking about clinical psychology and stuff like that. We're talking about career counseling.
No, that's correct. Career counseling and the field of counseling and the field of counseling psychology includes doing career counseling, because that career counseling also includes. I got a lot of clients who are depressed about their career.
Wow, that's something I wouldn't have thought of. That's interesting.
Oh, I would say that the majority of people that come to me are experiencing some type of depression or anxiety, and much of it comes from their job. If somebody is unsatisfied with their job chronically, they're going to get depressed about it, and sometimes because somebody is depressed, other than issues about their job, they're going to get the depression is going to carry over to their work. So yeah, So
you help them heal you've helped them figure out and identify that this career could be the problem that's causing all of this strife in their life.
I do work with them on that. However, since my focus is career, if they have a clinical issue, for example, if there's somebody who is very depressed and has been considering suicide, I'm going to first make sure that they're safe. And if they're not safe, I'm going to try to get them in touch with resources right away to deal with that. And there are hotlines for that. And they're, in an extreme case, you call 911.
Right.
Okay. But if this is a chronic issue, if depression or severe depression is a chronic issue, I'm going to refer them.
So people could be at home feeling depression and chronically, and this could all be associated with the job that they have.
Absolutely.
And so what you do is you come in and help them figure out how to relaunch. That's the title of your book, Relaunch, and figure out this thing that's going on inside of them. Maybe they didn't think they could do any more with their life. Maybe they think they're stuck forever, and you help them navigate through that and figure out what they can do.
Yeah, I do that. And the whole concept behind the book, and Bonnie helped me a little bit with this. The whole concept behind the book and a central factor is what we call the intersection principle. But the whole point is, how do you find passion for and meaning in your work for the rest of your career? So I deal with mid-career, with people who are in mid-career and beyond. The people go ahead.
I was just going to say that's awesome. I mean, a lot of us, we get stuck from time to time. But I personally, I've never worked in like corporate America or anything, but I find myself getting stuck from time to time, mentally. So I've got Bonnie, so she can counsel me. But I think that, for the majority of people that are in a job or in a career, they may not know that there's other options. And so when we had COVID-19 descend upon us, this brought what you do to the forefront and how you can help people today. So let's talk about 3 things that people could do at home if they're considering relaunching themselves. They find themselves to be depressed right now, and they're like, this sucks, and this isn't making it any better, this quarantine. But instead of just sitting at home paralyzed, share with us what you think they can do immediately to work on something.
Well, the very first thing, let's take first things first. The very first thing that they can do if they're sitting at home, they've lost their job, they need to get some income stream starting. Many people need to do that. So, and I just do this as a preliminary to the actual question that you're asking. So the first thing is apply for unemployment benefits, and some states are very quick with that. Other states are really slow. Do that immediately.
That's a great point. People, if you're paralyzed right now and you have lost your job, it's okay. Go ahead and apply for unemployment. That's what it's for. Is the system is set up by the government to help you. So I think that's a great point.
And another thing is, and a lot of people don't think about this, check with your employer. If you do work for a corporate employer, or you work for a larger employer, or even some smaller employers, there may be some benefits that you may not know about, or you may not have heard when somebody said, look, you're getting laid off or you're losing your job. That's not what you're thinking. What you're thinking about is, oh my God, but you're not thinking about what it's like. It's like getting a cancer diagnosis. You're not thinking about the things that you need to be thinking about. All you're thinking about is the worst. Right. So a thing to do is to check with your employer, check with the human resources people, or look at the employee manual you got if you got one, because there may be some benefits that you have from your employer. You may be getting a month's worth of salary. You don't know about that.
Wow.
So those are some very basic things that you can do. The other thing is that if you're within certain income limits, you will get a stimulus payment from the government, and they'll do that automatically. So make sure that you have your taxes filed for 2019. I think if you don't have it filed for 2019, they look at 2018. Yeah. So if you made a lot of money in 2018, but you didn't do too well in 2019, get your 2019 return in.
Right.
So you'll get more money. So those are some basic things. The other thing is just looking for a part-time or a temporary job in the meantime. You can do delivery, or people need delivery drivers very badly.
Yeah.
You can work for a supermarket chain. Of course, you have to be careful as far as exposure goes.
Right.
And some of the employers, many of the employers now are cognizant of that and are requiring people to wear masks and so forth. So temporary or part-time employment can be useful.
Awesome. Are there anything in the, Bonnie, you've read the book, so is there anything that you could point out that comes to mind in his book that would help someone that's at home right now? Let's say they're still in a job and they're just contemplating changing because they are feeling depressed. What would you think about that, Bonnie? Where could they go to figure out what they could be doing while they have all this time on their hands?
Well, the book actually has a series of exercises that you can do to try to, you don't want to just leap into another job. That's what people usually do. That what they'll do is they'll say, oh, I see this person over here, I could do that job. And they either just leap into the job, or even worse, and I say even worse, and I'll get to why, but they'll go to school and expend a lot of resources trying to get into that job, only to discover that they don't like it. Mm-hmm. And so this is, it seems to me, the non-professional, that this is a good time to go through those kinds of exercises and really discover what it is that would be a good fit for you? Because most people, like, we don't usually do that. We don't usually go through those exercises. We either do what, we do what lands in front of us, or we do what the economy is asking for. But this is, since, as my dad points out, this is a good time to wait and not make any sudden changes. So it's also a good time to go through that exercise of figuring out what would be, what skills do you have? What environment do you like to work in? And of course, the third one escapes my mind at the moment. What is it?
Well, I'll address that.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Bonnie did a workbook on this to supplement the book, and the workbook is really helpful. But let me, before I talk about the workbook, or let Bonnie talk about the workbook, I just want to say that the basic concept in the book is something that can be used lifelong, and we call that the intersection principle.
The intersection principle. Okay.
Intersection principle. And in essence, I had a visual on this, but we can't show the visual. But in essence, what this says, and you can use this throughout your entire career to make changes. But the bottom line is, how do you find passion and meaning throughout the rest of your career? And this is very simple, really. We're talking about assessing what your best skills are. And by best skills, I really mean best skills, not just your mediocre skills, as Bonnie would point out,
Right.
but your very best skills. And so you really need to do a good assessment, because many of the skills that we have, we don't even remember. If I ask either one of you, what skills do you have? Well, you might say selling and
Geometry.
Most people will come up with 3 or 4 skills that they have, 5 skills maybe. If you do an exercise on looking at your hidden skills, I just about guarantee that you're going to come up with 30 to 40 skills that you have. And really we're not aware of them because they're just not at the front of your consciousness. So skills, your best skills, are one thing that you want to be in touch with always. The next thing is your interests, and your interests include your general interests, the types of things you like, the types of things you don't like, the kinds of occupations that you're going to fit best into, and we have some assessment tools to find that out. But also, of the best skills that you've identified, which are the ones that you enjoy using most. So
that's paramount right there. It's like, what do you find joy? So you're talking about finding some joy and passion in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Here's my question: how do they know? How would they know if that because you could be depressed in your current job or career, and do you have exercises to help them figure out that, hey, your career is causing you this depression?
Yeah. Yes. And the book essentially, let me just mention the other 2 parts of the intersection principle, because it all fits together into your question. So we have best skills, interests. The third thing is your best fit environment, the type of environment you feel most comfortable working in, the type of supervision, the type of culture. And that's really important, because a lot of people are unhappy or depressed because they have a supervisor they don't get along with. They don't like the fact that they're told what to do. They would much rather say, here's the result I want. You do it the way you want. Just get me the result.
They want to critically think.
Yeah, they want to be able to think. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So everybody prefers a different type of environment. So best skills, interest, environment, and the fourth thing is opportunities. How do you find the opportunities that are going to be consistent with the 3 other factors, with the best skills, the interests, and the best fit environment? And if you're going to do that, if you're going to start from scratch and do that, you're looking for a job, then you're going to do a targeted, what we call a targeted job search, to find those jobs and the places where those jobs exist. that are consistent with those other factors. Now, sometimes opportunities are going to come along. If you're really good at what you do, other people are going to hear about it, and there are going to be other opportunities that come along. But you always have to keep your eye on the ball, and
Right.
keeping your eye on the ball means be aware of your best skills, your interests, and your best fit environment, and don't end up taking a job that's not consistent with those things. A lot of people go to websites like Indeed or ZipRecruiter or whatever. Those are great websites for employers, but they're not great websites for people who are looking for a job.
So what you're saying is, like, once you've done the intersection principle, you've identified your best skills, your interests, your preferred work environment, your targeted work search or job search should be only those things instead of just taking what's available, right?
Absolutely. Because once you have all of those things come together, that's your sweet spot of passion and meaningfulness. And if you are in that sweet spot, then that's going to do a lot to take away the depressing feelings that you have, because you're going to be interested in what you do. You're really going to.
Sorry.
That's okay. What you got, Bonnie?
I just want to add that a lot of people, it actually works. Like, I mean, I know that sounds like, oh, well, it actually works. You would never believe it. But that's what I've been doing my whole life, is these targeted job searches. And it's a little different. You find the jobs that haven't been advertised yet, or you find ways to introduce yourself before they even want to hire somebody. Depending on the kind of job, there are ways to get those jobs, and you have far less competition because nobody else is doing it. That's really the main thing. Like, when you put out your resume and you're competing right now, you're competing with a million other people. If you find the job before it's ever been advertised, you have no competition.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, so, this is an exercise that people can do at home right now during the quarantine. They can work on this stuff that's a very simple process. Bring it back up on the screen. If you just want to work on the intersection principle, there's one takeaway from this video today is just figure out what your best skills are, your interests, and your preferred work environment, which is fluid right now. It's changing, but, at least start that list and writing those things down.
We have a workbook for that. It's just, you just follow the exercises. It's pretty straightforward.
If you do that, you're going to be in a position when things start to settle down to know exactly what your strategy is going to be in looking for a different type of job, a new type of job. And there's one thing that I wanted to point out with regard to passion and meaningfulness.
Okay, go ahead.
There are studies that have been done about work and how people feel about their work. There's one study that came out just a few years ago, and it found that people spend at least 50% of their waking hours either working, thinking about work, or traveling to and from work. And just think about that. People who are managers and people who are high-level professionals are going to be spending a lot more than 50% of their waking hours in that activity. So if you're not feeling good about your work, I mean, what does that say about what your demeanor is going to be, or your feelings about yourself? I mean,
you're right. I think that is that just a look in the mirror moment. I mean, am I still happy with what I do? Is this fulfilling me? Am I just depressed? I mean,
yeah,
that's a tough question, I think, for all of us.
And just the idea, think of it this way. I use this as an example. If you get up on Monday morning and you're thinking, oh, I got to go back to work. I just want to go back to sleep. I wish it was Friday.
Yeah.
Versus if you get up on Monday morning and you say, I had a project. I had that project I was working on Friday. I've been thinking about it all during the whole weekend, and I can't wait to get back to it. I can't wait to get back to my patients or my clients or my the thing that I'm writing or my selling. This week I have 2 possible opportunities to sell a car, and I'm really excited about that. I mean, that's a whole different approach than if you're getting up and saying, "God, do I have to do this again?
That was how I felt at the end of the time in the corporate job. I loved it when I started, but by the end, I felt like there was an 8-hour hole in the day. Like I couldn't wait to get home and learn how to make a new kind of sock.
Wow.
That's what I was thinking about. Whereas now, I get up on Monday. Now I'm not saying that I like being anywhere at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's probably never going to happen.
We know that.
But that's right, and I'm not going to let anyone forget. But I am excited about the stuff that I get to do when I get there. So that, it's not like I think we all hope that we're going to find the perfect job and every moment is going to be glorious. And it doesn't actually work that way. I mean, it's hard to learn jobs sometimes, like if you're in sales, sometimes you feel like an idiot. But the thing is, are you, like my dad said, are you excited about the projects that you're going to be doing? Or are you thinking that, you're going to be wasting 8 hours and leave as soon as you can?
I've got a question for you, Dr. Simon.
Yeah.
So, lots of times, you hear this a lot where people say you find your passion and you work in your passion, or find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And so, but there's some opposition to that, you can definitely do what you love if they're hiring, you know what I mean? So it's not just a message to tell people, go find your passion and chase it for the rest of your life. I guess if your goal is to get paid, those two things have to line up. So what do you tell a client in this particular situation?
Well, that's true. These things do have to line up, but when you do a targeted job search, you're looking for all of these things. So you have a higher probability of getting everything to line up, or mostly line up. Nothing is going to be perfect. So you do the best you can, but you try to maximize to the extent that you can. And I do get clients who are making a lot of money actually, and are not satisfied with what they're doing.
Right.
And at mid-career, they have families and 2 kids in high school and maybe one getting ready for college or in college, and you can't give up that $99,000 a year salary.
Right.
Yet you can't stand what you're doing. So you can work with that, though. I mean, and I have had situations where I'm working with somebody right now who is in the legal field as a paralegal.
Okay.
This person really needs to make no less than around $60,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult because the amount of it's not feasible really to go back to school and spend 2 years in school and so forth. So we really had to look carefully for what the options are. And sometimes when you do that, you can find some options. You can't always, but you need to work at it. And we did find something that really makes sense. So and then what comes after that, once you can identify the occupation, then you have to do the targeted job search and try to make sure as much as possible the other factors come in line.
So you're basically up in the chances, that you can have your passion. If once you do a targeted job search, you can possibly find a job that fits all of that bill, and you could be completely satisfied with it. You
can be either completely satisfied, or you could be a lot more satisfied than you are right now.
We like to call that reasonably happy.
You can be reasonably happy. If you're unhappy, being reasonably happy feels a lot better than being unhappy.
I totally agree with that. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Yeah, I keep trying to interrupt that. One of the things I really liked about this book is that a lot of the career advice that you get says, throw everything out, just start all over again, and throw caution to the wind. And this doesn't do that. This book is, because sometimes you don't need to make some kind of dramatic change. Sometimes you can't give up the salary, or there's some other, you can't go back to school, you can't do this, but there are smaller changes that you can make. to be happier. And this process, this intersection principle, does take that into account. So I like to throw that out there because because a lot of times people can't make huge changes, but that doesn't mean that they have to be miserable. There's still things they can do.
I totally love that. Hold the book up again so we can see it.
The book.
Relaunch. So this is written by Dr. Simon, who's Bonnie's dad. Bonnie's dad. And Bonnie has been working on a workbook that goes along with this. So for Bonnie's friends and my friends out there, if you're interested in this book, just get in touch with us or Bonnie, or post it in the comments, and she'll make it available to you.
Ronnie, I just sent you an email.
Okay.
See if you can open the. I'm hoping these are the right ones. There is something. There should be one on the book, showing the book and where you can get it.
Okay. Let me see if I can pull this up.
See if that one has it. If it doesn't, I sent you the wrong one.
Oh, here it is. Let me see if I can make this full screen.
Ta-da!
Right.
I will point out that that there's also a website, hsoutcomes.com. That's my dad's website, and you can connect with him there. And he does do actual counseling and take clients. So if you are interested in actual counseling, then you could go there and sign up for a consultation.
And you live in Florida, but you definitely are available through the internet on video, correct?
On video, and I also do a lot of video, phone, and email. My practice is primarily a distance practice.
I think the question everybody wants answered is, if I have a problem with Bonnie and I think she's depressed, do I need to contact you? I'm going to need your cell phone number, sir.
That's only on Monday morning.
Monday morning.
Right. You're supposed to be feeling good on Monday morning.
I'm feeling like I don't want to get out of bed on Monday morning. That's
every day.
I've been a total failure then.
By 10 o'clock, I'm pretty happy.
And I want to point out that workbook, if somebody wants to purchase the book and they go to the website that we had on that slide, we'll give them a copy of the workbook as well. We haven't published that workbook separately yet, but if they purchase that book, we'll give them for now, and I haven't checked this with Bonnie, who is the author of that book, we'll give them a complimentary copy of the workbook, which really makes it easy to go through the exercises for the intersection principle.
Maybe if they buy the book today.
We'll just throw it in. It's a car deal now.
It's a car deal now. If you buy a car and the book, we'll throw in the workbook.
Hey guys, we have a question from Danny Ramos. Let me bring it up on the screen. To achieve a dream and a new career, should you take out a loan of $90,000 when the future is unclear? Also, you probably wouldn't make much to begin with.
Well, that doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
Okay. So Danny, he's like, no, you shouldn't take out a loan of $90,000 when the future is unclear. So what would you say to that? Like, I'm assuming he's looking to invest in something or do something different.
Well, it's really hard to say. I mean, I don't know the circumstances or what the 90,000 would be used for.
You got anything you want to add to that, Danny? It's probably a real estate transaction because Danny's in real estate. Yeah. So I'm assuming he's talking about investing 90,000 into some type of deal where it's still unclear.
But it's a new career.
Yeah, I think that. As I said before, we just don't know what's going to happen, and that includes with real estate. I don't know what kind of real estate that you do, but people's incomes are going to be potentially drastically affected for a long period of time. So we don't know what that's going to mean for the real estate market. My advice would probably be to, without knowing much more about what the 90,000, what kind of real estate we're talking about or whatever. But generally speaking, my advice would be to wait until things settle down a little bit. Otherwise, you know, you're taking a high risk. But on the other hand, you may know exactly what you're doing, and you may know exactly what's happening in the real estate market. So I don't want to jump in and say don't do it.
I think he's talking about school. Like, look at that. So if you look at this question again, and I think that if you're going to post a question, guys, make it clear. And he's making a flight school. So he's thinking about not real estate. He found myself wanting to go to flight school. So it's actually a great question. So, when you're talking about relaunching, he could do the intersection principle and figure out, because obviously he's interested in flying. So investing $90,000 into that future and is still unclear, and he wouldn't make that kind of money right away. But what do you have to say about that when they're trying to chase that passion?
Well, again, I think we still need to look at the future. The $90,000 is a lot of money, and right now, the airline industry, for example, is really hurting. Yeah. And we don't know how much that's going to bounce back when we're done with the COVID-2 virus, because people are going to find different ways of traveling, and it's going to be a lot less expensive in some instances, and they may continue to do that. So we don't know. I would approach it with caution.
Approach it with caution, Danny.
Danny, I would just like you to know that this is a conversation that I've had many times, just like this, where I say, I want to spend $75,000 and get a degree in philosophy. And my dad says, I think GE just laid off their last philosopher. Maybe you could think of something else. That was an actual conversation that we had.
Wow.
So you're not
Danny, maybe doing that intersection principle may be a good exercise for you. I mean, I like that you're looking at going to flight school, and if something you got passion for, no better investment is in yourself. I think investing in yourself is definitely a priority, but definitely, like the doctor said, look at it more clearly and take some time during COVID-19 and slow down and kind of give it a chance to come back and see what it's going to do.
I think, Ronnie, that's great advice. And if you go through the exercises with the intersection principle, it's not going to hurt you, not going to hurt you at all. And you may find out what you're thinking about is right on target. On the other hand, you may come up with some other alternatives as well. So this is a good time to go through that.
Any parting thoughts you guys have for everybody? I'm going to bring up our little deal. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to try and do more stuff like this. We're also going to be talking about cars tomorrow with the incomparable Bonnie Simon. We're going to be comparing a luxury car to a non-luxury car and asking you a question, is it worth it? So that's going to be going live tomorrow. I'll post that in a little bit. But if you've got any questions, please post them in the comments box and give us a thumbs up and let us know you like the video. Parting shots for you, Dr. Simon.
One parting shot is that I'd really like to hear this, see this video on cars. I happen to be interested in cars, so
just thinking I'd like to weigh in on that question.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. So the only thing I can say is be cautious now about changing jobs. That's not to say don't change jobs, but know your situation, know what you might be getting into, and understand that things could change drastically in the next several months or the next year. So that's important. And the other thing is, it's very important that over the long term that you feel good about yourself and about the jobs and the work that you're doing. And that's where the intersection principle comes in. And so I suggest that during this period of time, you take a good look at things, a good look at yourself, and use the intersection principle to see what's going to be, what's going to present passion and meaning for you for the rest of your career.
Awesome. What do you have, Bonnie? I know you want to weigh in.
Oh, yeah. I had something, but now I don't remember what it was. That's yeah. I think that the thing that always strikes me is that at a time, you know, like when you're unhappy in your job, you kind of want to escape. Like that's how I usually feel when I want to get rid of a job that I've stayed too long. And to it's important to do your homework and really figure out what it is that is going to make you happy, that, you know, before you go get that degree in philosophy and discover that there's no jobs. It makes sense. It just makes, and even if you're young, like even if you're a kid just going out of high school to college, it makes sense to do the homework about the job market before you start and what you're going to really like, because otherwise you're spending a lot of money and you're just going to owe a lot of money. There's ways around that. There's ways around being permanently in debt for something that didn't work out.
Got it. Great thoughts, guys. I appreciate you joining me today. And we look forward to you being in the comments tomorrow, Dr. Simon, about the luxury car versus the non-luxury car.
Okay.
And take your questions. My life goal is to get you to buy a car from Bonnie.
Not going to happen.
Thank you
All
for
right.
having me on, Ronnie.
You're very welcome. So it's very nice to meet you. I've had the pleasure of working with your daughter for over a year now, and we foresee many more years of working together. And hopefully I'll get to meet you in person at the Broadmoor at some point when we can all shake hands and hang out again.
I hope so.
Yes, sir. We'll do that. All right, guys. Well, please subscribe to the channel. And if you got questions, let us know. Let's see if we got any more comments. Danny says, thank you all. So, yep, Danny, keep chasing those dreams and figure out what your intersection principle is and where your passion lies. So,
those dreams in a sensible, planful way.
Right. In a sensible way. All right, guys. Well, we will talk to you soon. Thank you. And we can stand by. I'm going to take us offline and we can chat in the room.